Hey, hello and welcome. This is the final io.js website working group meeting. I am Trent Oswald, also known as the Rebel Robot. Um, I am here joined with two other fine fellows. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Frederik Hemberger from Germany.
And this is Jeremiah Sankpeel, aka Fishrock123, IOJSTC.
Cool. So today, if we had a quorum, we were going to go through and just do the nominal ratification of the new website working group members, but we can do that next week when we have more people showing up. That pretty much leaves us today just going through the issues in the Node.js/website repo and discussing whether or not we want to move them to the new repo, for example, if they're feature requests, or if they're things that we can just leave here, just doing a bit of house cleaning. And so, looks like how many have we got open? 55?
3 pages.
Yeah. So we'll try and do this as quickly as possible. I know we've all got other things we need to be doing, but definitely want to get a little bit of consensus on where these issues are going. Just got a message from Index 0. 2 seconds here. Jeremiah, will you take over for a second while I'm chatting with him?
I suppose I can. I'm not really sure where we're at, but let's see. We have three pages of issues looking at briefly. There's a lot of discussion issues. I believe we have a lot of old content issues regarding stuff that no one was really around to actually write up about. Is there anything specifically about the site that we have right now that is functionally missing or not working as we would have it? I'm not exactly sure. Maybe Frederick might have a better idea.
No, not really. There were a few suggestions to add additional content, but I don't think that's really that critical, so we don't have missing or broken features.
I see add a 404 page, properly styled 404 page. That's about it.
Frederick made a new tag
Okay.
in the repo that we can tag anything that we want to move over. It is new.
Yes, new node.js.org.
And so anything that we want to move over, like the 404 page, let's go ahead and tag those as we're going, so that we can make sure to.
They might already have a 404 page.
Okay. Let's take a look. Oh, you mean Node.js.org?
Yeah. So Cian had a issue 264 ongoing build/template process improvements, and there are two things that are still not checked off: live reload integration and tracking a manifest of what articles are to be created for internationalization cross-linking.
Okay.
So it looks like that's, I think our build system was pretty done.
Yeah, because we want to make sure that, because we've got at least a few more releases of io.js before the switch gets flipped, and so we want to make sure that anything that's standing in the way of doing
the
that.
io.js.org website should still exist either way, so that the releases can go up to it, even if it's linked then later on from the Node.js website.
Yeah, definitely.
Where else are we?
I just checked the 404 on Node.js.org, and it's just a generic Nginx 404 page.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So we'll definitely want one of those. Let's see here.
We also never got quite where we wanted with device/browser coverage. I think our thing currently uses a decent bit of, what's that stuff called? It's been a while since I did front end. Flexbox.
Okay.
So older browsers might not work as well, but that's, see, a lot of this stuff, I don't remember exactly how our CSS is laid out, but a lot of this stuff might be fixable in more of a merge situation where, well, I guess this is stuff we should maybe fix on our end anyways, but like if we take our templating system and move that over to a new website repo and then apply more Node.js styles to it, like that'll be something to discuss in that context
Yeah,
rather than ours.
the international language versions still use the old homepage template, so they're still fixed on Markdown. So
And the English one doesn't?
no, the English one has been updated to use the template JSON, and the other languages still use the old Markdown.
Oh, okay, we should probably fix that. I was under the impression that they all use the JSON now, but maybe they didn't get switched over yet.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something that Dean
I
wanted
changed
to
it for the German version, but I was not too confident to do it for the other languages, so I
I
skipped
think
that.
it might have been sort of left as a thing for like the language working groups to decide, but I'm not sure if that's a great idea either.
No, it's such an ugly hack to style fifth element of
Yeah,
Yeah,
paragraph,
it's
and
really dirty.
that's terrible ugly.
it it's it's nice that we can do it, but
Yeah,
it's
But
kind
we
of
shouldn't
terrible.
have to. The speed on that's going to be a lot slower. It was more of just hacked together based on the
Yeah.
technologies we had.
The main problem with the JSON, like in terms of internationalization, is that the JSON itself still labels everything in English compared to having it in Markdown. People have like a better view of where stuff is if they're from a different language entirely.
Yeah,
Which I mean, if stuff's translated, it might not be too bad. Like, I'm really not sure how to solve that.
yeah, because different languages are going to have different like sentence structures and different. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking at some. We need some way for in going forward the internationalization communities to be able to dictate the structure of the content, not just the content itself. Because the way that we say things in English may make absolute no sense in Japanese.
Well, they already have a bit, right? Lots of the Japanese stuff is translated. I know Mariko translated a lot of it in a slightly different style than it would have been like literally translated, but it's like meant to be in a way that's like not super formal, but like semi-casual because they have like that range of spectrum in that language.
Mm-hmm.
I
Just
mean, the thing is, we only have that for the home page, which might make more sense because it's like going to be the most styled thing always.
right.
So if we're just discussing issues and sort of how we're doing internationalization and that not all the pages have been updated to have the main page base itself off the JSON files.
Yeah, I have one one question if you guys don't mind. Sorry I was late. I got it mixed up with next week's merged meeting. But the way that you guys are talking about internationalization, is it just a foregone conclusion that we're going to use the io.js website going forward and deprecate what exists now on nodejs.org?
Not necessarily.
So
We're
the
more
kind of plan
talking
that's
about
been talked
IOJS
about,
forward.
the kind of plan that's been talked about is So Node.js.org, I'm not sure exactly what we're doing at the domain, but like some portion of that site is going to be kept for the existing joint/node releases. And then we'll keep io.js running for the existing io.js releases. And in the future, we would have a Node website that's like the new website that might be styled differently or whatever, that we can like somehow take our system for internationalization and apply that to Node.js and have people translate content for that and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like we got all the content translated pretty quickly early on, so translating new content shouldn't be too much of a challenge, but that's definitely a sunk value in what's there now, is that you already have a ton of internationalized strings, which you don't have for any merged version or for any anything that's on Node.js.org now.
Right, and there is going to be a little bit of duplication of effort going on when we get the new merge site up and running. But again, that depends on how different the final design of the new site's going to be. I think that's going to be more on the either the evangelism or the foundation side to determine how different it's going to be from either version.
Yeah, I mean, funny things like I own Node.js.foundation, like that GTLD, and like Node.foundation. I bought those like more than a year ago. I just renewed them. So sort of separate website questions that I think we'll probably table till next week.
Yeah, probably. More of what we're doing here is we're going through the issues that are currently in the io.js website repo and determining what needs to be fixed, what's going to be a won't fix, what are things that are going to be moved over into the new repo once it's created. More of just house cleaning, making sure that for the merged meeting next week we've got all of our ducks in a row.
Sounds good. Yeah, I know I've been out the last few meetings, so I appreciate you guys bringing me up to speed.
Yeah.
So just a note about translating content. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. A lot of the content got translated fairly quickly. We've been having definitely more of an issue where there's just not enough people that have time to write content than to like translate content.
Yeah, and that's fair. So here's the question. Do we want to spend the time and effort to update all of the various languages for io.js, for the io.js website itself, or do we want to kind of just let it deprecate?
Maybe have a branch that is the old website, and then have the master be the merged website, and then the build system can pick up on the old branch for the old site, so you can have them side by side on the same Git repo.
So I suspect we're probably going to just use like a new repo for the new site and just port stuff all into that, so that we still have history and can run this site from its main repo.
Individual internationalization repos.
Oh.
Like the strings, because yeah, you're going to have a new website repo, but that'll have new strings that'll be in Chinese and Japanese, but then you'll still have the old strings, and you could do it in the file structure and have just one for new and old, or you could do it on like
Why would we have old strings there? That's content to io.js.org, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. For that period of time, there's 3 websites, I guess.
Yeah, that would stay in our current repo and be called like, I don't know, io.js website instead of the like website repo. And so, I mean, if people want to still like fix spelling errors on the content, like as long as there's people from the translation groups to sign off on it, I don't think it's a big deal to just merge it. It'll get automatically updated anyways. There's nothing we need to do to have the site build at this point.
Okay, yeah, so maintain it in the directory structure instead of as a separate Git branch. It's fine.
So cool.
Sorry, I'm just hey everyone. Yeah. By the way, so I'm just a little confused. I know I jumped in late, but I think I jumped in like into this conversation enough. But is the idea that art like talking about the I-18, the internationalization groups folder structures, or just like how we're managing our version of the website slash websites, because we have kind of the three. I'm not sure if I'm following.
At least as far as I'm trying to keep this meeting towards is focusing on just the io.js website repo and how we're going to maintain it in the future, both with internationalization and otherwise. Anything having to do with the merged repo, I would say would have to deal more with the meeting we'll have next week, if that makes more sense.
Right, for sure. And so the general consensus is that would be its own repo, when we get to that point, like that other project will.
Yeah.
I think it's
unless we think otherwise, because that's sort of what had been discussed as probably being like the most reasonable solution in like the sort of dev policy and merger stuff that I was involved with too.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I proposed. So unless anyone else has
no, it
opinions on that.
makes a lot of sense. And the one thing I was going to just kind of comment on in terms of how all the IETN groups organize is they really, for the most part, are mirroring our project anyway. A lot of them are just doing their own thing in regards to like how they store markdown versions of the Medium articles and other content as well. So I think for the most part, they're just going to have their own way of linking up to the like IITN content for one or multiple projects that we have. However, they best self-organize. Now, getting into a new project is probably an opportunity, and this is for next week to talk about. But like, there'll be an opportunity to maybe like streamline a bit or kind of reestablish some best practice advice, like we're playing with subtrees and stuff towards the later part of this project. But yeah, I think the general plan is we don't really know how long the io.js website will stay, or maybe the merge release will come out a lot later than we think it will. So it's probably good just to assume that this site might even be up for a year or two still, and let it just coast and get the changes whoever is contributing sees that it might need.
And for the merged website, we need an entirely different content structure as well. So I think it would be best to start with English first until we settle for the entire structure and then start translating it afterwards.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by structure? Because currently our thing basically has a main page and then like a bunch of other pages that can be like linked from that. And you could probably put like folders in there, and it probably wouldn't matter either. They would just go to those directories, I think.
Yeah.
We kind of had the issue last time, and maybe the excitement levels, things have stabilized a bit, and we sort of have these established communities. But everyone was like jumping the ball and starting to translate the io.js website like before we were ready for it in many ways, and so as a result, some people ended up like forking their own versions, and some interesting things kind of happened as a result. So it's just something to be mindful of as we're doing the new merge build and thinking about that kind of like working with the teams to sort of like figure out how this stuff will work and try to circumvent maybe them like, I don't know if let's say we just start by, again, this is almost next week's conversation, but if we just start by forking the like static HTML version of the current website or something, you could foresee a keener I89 group like translating everything on there quickly on their own and throwing it up somewhere if we haven't really given advice. So just something for us to be mindful of.
Yeah, absolutely. When Michael set out the internationalization teams, we didn't really have a build step in place for them, and led to a lot of duplicated efforts. And so, all right. So with that out of the way, I was letting Frederick and Jeremiah know there is a tag. Well, Frederick made a tag in the Node.js website labels called new node.js node.js.org. Anything that we want to move over, like an idea for an enhancement or things that are more about the idea of the site as opposed to like the specifics, we want to tag with that new node.js.org tag. Do we have a label for won't fix? Yeah, we do.
There should already be one there. It
So
comes
we
with all GitHub.
Oh, sorry. So we want to find any issues that are either too big or too, esoteric for us to worry about, and label those appropriately. That way, going forward with the io.js website specifically, we have a plan of attack on what to do. We've got 55 open issues. Some of those are having to do with the merge, of course, but a lot of them have to do with enhancement ideas and feature requests, and we wanted to go through those issues and discuss them and either close them or clean house here a bit. And so do you guys have time to be able to go through those issues with me one by one, or do we want to kind of just go over the more broad, or like it's up to you. It's whatever you guys have time for today.
I've got a little bit more time, but I do have another commitment at 1, so if we can I can get done in 30 minutes.
I think if we're going really fast through the ones that are just quick wins, and if it requires more discussion, we can table it. Yes, no, table. Yes, no, table. I think we could get through them pretty quick.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
If you guys are cool with that, then I'll just start rapid firing these off, and you can let me know what you think.
Should we sort them by like the oldest ones first? Because I feel like
Just go through the oldest ones first, because we can knock tons off.
Yeah.
Starting with link people to this repo for website issues somehow.
Probably still going to be a thing for the converged repo, because we'll need to be able to tell people not to report like website issues or translation issues to the main repo. And
right.
I'm still not sure how to do that well.
Okay.
That can be done as a simple link in the footer, for example. Just making.
Yeah, but we already have like a bazillion things in the footer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll need to be discussed, but definitely something that we want to move over to the new website. I've gone ahead and added the new node.js.org tag to that. Moving on, guide FAQ, coexisting with Node.js version managers, etc. This looks like an enhancement idea. Or
So generally, I think this is a little less important now, because there's never going to be like a Node.js 1.0 unless something happens and like, I don't know, everything blows up or something and we don't end up converging, which isn't going to happen. So.
Right on.
I think we can label this as one fix.
Okay. Okay. Moving on, we've got a list of hosting platforms that support io.js. This looks like an enhancement.
This
Sorry,
and
what number
the
is that?
issue of it.
Just going off numbers.
So that's 73, 75 also, list packages on third-party package managers. It's just something that would be useful if people could actually write it.
Okay, so should I label that with to move it over to the new site?
Do we really need this in the future? Because if we're going to merge, we don't need a separate list of hosting platforms supporting io.js and Node.js.
Fair. I think we can drop it for now. I mean, with the
As,
new
I mean,
site, it'll
as,
be a
as
whole
someone
new.
who run one of those platforms, you generally want to have a matrix of what versions are supported. So it might not be what is io.js compatible, but there are things that, this version doesn't work on this platform, that version doesn't work on that platform. That information was generally held in the Node.js, so the Node core wiki, and that page is woefully out of date. So I would say it's probably a good idea to just leave it open. It's not a high priority, but that information should definitely live in a website and not in the wiki.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and like Node will end up with its own version of that, hopefully. It's possibly a little bit more important for us since io.js is still going to end up where it's not exactly Node.js, and there's some differences in the way you install things and how you can't upgrade npm and stuff, and it's possible that we won't have all the hosting solutions that even a converged project would be able to support. So
Okay. So should we just leave that open then?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sort of tempted with some of these, like even if maybe it's like a second label, but like I think a whole content discussion should happen around the. Well, I guess there's for the existing website and the new website, but if it's anything we're thinking of for the new website, it's like it's a good idea to almost come up again, like as we decide.
I have
how
on
to
my
structure
request
the
that I
content.
call needs investigation for that sort of stuff. If you guys want to create something similar.
Yeah, we've got a tag for discuss.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing.
Okay. And we did say we want a matrix of platforms, though, for the new one, though, right?
Yeah, if you're taking notes for next week's meeting, I think that would be really good. But
Okay.
I don't know how you're tracking that. I figured that we're closing the stuff that's the new tag, sorry.
Yeah, because even the last one we just closed off relating to like how to use version managers and run multiple like versions was something I would say is legit for like the new website as well, but like we aren't going to do for this website. But I was still in favor of just closing it because like good guide articles like that will just come up again. Like,
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, if it's something that we want, if it's already been presented and it's something we want in the new site, let's label it and leave it open, because then we can just start a new issue on the new site based off of those, and we don't have to, because I forget things a lot, and I forget features
Sure.
that we want to be added. We're not going to remember everything that, is a possibility for the site. And that's one reason why I want to make sure that anything that we want on the new site is labeled as the new, to take a look at it. And
yeah,
so,
let's just label it and move on.
okay. Let's see. List of packages on third-party package managers. I think that's pretty
We
much
already
just.
went over. Yeah.
Oh, we'll take a look at support matrices on the new site, as well as io.js moving forward. Latest Semver alias URL to the latest version's tarball. I think that's more of a build issue, isn't it?
Yes and no. We should probably bring this up with the website team. This should definitely be for the new website. This would be very useful to basically everyone, I think. I don't think this exists on the original repo.
Yeah, and we may not need it on the original repo, on the io.js repo, considering
Yeah.
we're considering the merge. All right, moving on. Evangelism working group. This looks like just a
Let's just
generic
close this out. It
Yeah,
exists.
I agree.
close. Okay, we've got share the social love. I think that's
This
same.
is an evangelism thing that they're already taking care of.
So I'm gonna go ahead and close that then.
Cool.
All right, we've got add notes about hosting build project into the README.
This could
This
still
is
be
like
useful.
FAQ stuff.
Yeah, I would say maybe not on io.js, but definitely on the new website should have that information.
Okay, I'll go ahead and label that then.
Yeah, a lot of people are confused, like how does it publish, etc. So it's in the new repo. We can just do that from the start.
Okay. Download stats. Is that something that we want to?
I would say close it personally because it was sort of a thing to illustrate growth that is no longer relevant.
Fair, and because of the backing that we have for Node.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that sort of, hey, we're getting as many downloads as Node, but that's not a priority anymore.
Okay.
I think this could be relevant if we rename it to be like X number of visitors to the site today. What do you guys think?
Um,
A throwback to
That's kind of
1999.
separate, but yeah.
No, it's a bad joke.
have one of those stickers.
Marquee tag too. Want a marquee tag?
Let's get some
The
flashing.
counter can be in a marquee tag that is flashing.
And then put it to like some wild number that could never possibly happen. All right.
So device/browser coverage issue 91.
Mm-hmm. That's something we want to keep probably both on the io.js as well as to the new one.
Yeah, it's relevant to both. So
Labeling. Moving on. About us, a page listing everyone involved.
relevant to both.
Yeah, I agree.
What's that?
It's relevant to both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Labeled. Moving on. Add a wide io.js section to the link or homepage.
I think that's sort of like download stack. Just cut it.
Yeah, I think that.
Is this really relevant anymore? I mean,
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay, I'm going to close that out then. IRC primer in FAQ. I think that is still something that would be good.
so we have our information on nodeirc.info.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that has.
I also introduced the label good first contribution, so if any newcomer wants to support us and write something up, I think this is a good issue to go ahead and start off.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to have in both.
It'd probably be helpful as almost like a community page, like all the, because especially with Node now, there's like a wider community linking to Stack Overflow, all the different places to go for answers.
Yeah, that might be really good. Go ahead and add a note to that in the IRC primer in the FAQ, and when we move it over to the new one, we'll make a community page or something like that.
Sure, yeah, I'll add that on.
Evangelism, social media evangelism, call for speakers.
Close.
Those are closed because those have been taken over by the evangelism working groups. Okay. Internationalization, spinning off groups.
So we can probably close this. It is kind of like the thread that people have previously posted in that like they want to be a part of a group. So maybe we should have better direction for that at some point, but I'm not sure if we need it right now.
Yeah, we won't need that until we have a little bit better idea of what the content structure is going to be. And so I'm going to go ahead and close that out then. Adding 404, we already discussed that. That's both. iojs.org versus localized sites.
So this is kind of this entire thing that like at the beginning. Actually, I'm not sure. There might be a working group or two that still like maintains their own site. Because I know some of them, at least at the start, maybe still now, kind of preferred to have their own site where they could do stuff a little bit else.
Yeah. But those are going to need to be pulled in, right? Those are going to need to be...
Well, people can always like manage I mean, like their own community sites if they want to, but
it's not necessarily going to be through the org.
yeah,
And
I
so,
I would I would say just like if it's gonna be like org supported through the org, do it through the official site. Otherwise, sure, go ahead. But that won't be our sort of issue.
okay. Do you want me to close that one out, or do you want me to leave that open for now?
It can
I'd
be
say you may
12.
as well close it. I mean, again, the working groups for like these languages are autonomous anyway, so if they want to do something like that, that's up to them.
Okay. Moving on. Font used for website to accommodate all languages.
This is important because even our current font doesn't support certain Chinese translations, I believe, very well.
Okay.
Probably important to Node.js too, since they haven't done this sort of thing before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We may end up having to do font localization.
Yeah. And
Possibly. There are some fonts that work very, very well across all languages. I think something might be listed there.
Yeah, but they're quite huge, so this may
Yeah.
become a performance issue.
Yeah, I mean, you could have, if you have the locale getting served up by the browser, you could actually serve down the font conditionally based on what locale they're in.
We could do that. So we don't do any auto-selecting currently for languages, but we could have it so that because none of our pages are currently dynamically built on serve, they're built on build, and then it's just all static files that we serve. So we could build into each language file if it needs a different font into there, and then there won't be any real overhead for us. That seems like a good.
Yeah.
And this is a great discussion, but probably one that we want to have a little bit later when we have a little bit.
Xylophone that.
Let's just leave it tagged.
I
so we
think you
don't
should
forget.
still tag it as new because it's still relevant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've gone ahead and tagged it. Moving on, we've got avoid nth child for selecting paragraphs.
This is
Yeah.
kind of our problem, and we should probably suggest working groups move off of this old rendered markdown for the homepage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really relevant anymore.
It's relevant to us, but
Well, it's relevant to the build of the new one, and so.
Yeah, we've mostly like structurally figured all this stuff out. It's just was an issue before we.
I suggest we just keep that for ourselves, but don't add the new tag to it, because like if we're gonna port stuff, we should talk about next week just porting the JSON part of it, because that makes more sense.
Okay. All right. Moving on, we've got visual design. I think that's going to need to be. I don't think that's within our purview currently.
So the evangelism team tracks this stuff, right? So we can just close it.
Yeah, like I would say close it, because it's basically never going to happen for io.js now, and there's like some talk of rebranding from the foundation, but that's not on our level anyways.
Okay. Moving on, we've got adding internationalization contributors as collaborators. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I don't think that's relevant after the listing itself. As well as adding new members to the website group. We can leave that one open for now to add in the node side theme. If you
Okay.
Sure. Okay. Moving on, we've got io.js API localization, open questions.
So this is kind of like hard because no one really like has stepped up to like take care of the docs, and I'm quite certain that the doc tool can't handle any sort of thing like this. It can barely even handle what we have there.
Yeah.
and no one maintains that either. We're almost certainly not going to keep localizations of the API in core, so this is,
No,
I don't know.
please don't. Please don't.
Yeah,
This is
otherwise you're just going to have like this massive set of like files and changes, and
Yeah, that's
it's gonna be a
that's
mess.
ideal.
it will be so hard to maintain, and especially if you think about having 10 or 15 different languages, it will be absolutely horror.
The question is, should we present the possibility of a docs working group that can handle all of this stuff that the website group can work together with? Because the docs specifically is a unique set of problems.
Yeah, maybe. I would say like we should probably bring this up next week. Honestly, I'm not sure if like anyone over there really has time for it either. So
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a carry forward issue because nobody owns it right now. We've almost owned it a few times, so it's possible that we still might in some capacity, or at
Okay.
least eventually transition it away, or who knows.
We've
But
got
it does appear on the website, so like
yeah,
it's a blurry
I
line.
mean like I guess it could be kind of confusing because if you're on like say you're on the German website and then you click on like API docs, whatever it's translated to in German, and it's like, oh, it's all in English. Though I'm not sure there's again much we can do
well.
right now.
Well, I think that shouldn't be a problem. Most Germans are used to read and speak English anyway, so
Yeah, I mean not necessarily for German, but any language.
yeah.
Are we needing to tag any of these specific ones as like things we want to discuss next week versus port over? Because some of these will port over but aren't highly relevant. This is almost a meeting agenda worthy one if we can add like another tag. Maybe just the WG agenda tag in addition to the other one, just so we catch it for next week.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have an answer next week, we can at least introduce the history a bit more again.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe we can just do that in an issue so that we can get over as much as we can right now.
Okay. We've got the TC meetings in 10 minutes, right? That's at...
No, I don't think we have a TC meeting today. Yeah.
Okay. I was going to try and rapid fire the rest so that we could get you off to that, Jeremiah. But...
Let's pretend we do so we go fast anyway.
That's fair. I like that idea. All right, rapid fire. This is a yes, no, or move over. Or like fix here, don't fix here, or fix them both. All right. Language detection plus linking.
Move over.
Move over.
Fix them both.
Okay. Next up, we've got upcoming events page calendar. Move over, yes or no?
Move. Worth discussing.
Okay. Next up, we've got supported host page. I think we already covered that. I think that's a
Don't we
duplicate.
already have a thing, another one for that?
Yeah, we already.
The compatibility matrix we were talking about.
I'm going to label that as duplicate and close it out. Next up, we got warn with detail against certain harmony flags. Do you want to move that over, or keep that here, or kill it?
Either keep it here or both. It's kind of still relevant, along with updating the current harmony flags. Because quite frankly, there's some that you just shouldn't use, and maybe we shouldn't even list them. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, worth keeping.
All right. HTTPS, all the things.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got. I've got way too many tabs. Okay, tabs to the right.
The next one's one I had with a giant to-do list: ongoing build template process improvements. Like all but one check mark is done. I think we can actually just mark it as completed.
Okay.
The only thing I never got working, I don't think, was live reload, but whatever. We can. It's going to be a new code base soon, so we can get that in there.
Okay. You cool if I close it then?
Yeah.
Okay.
We saw this for history when we go to build the new one and see what we did before. So.
Okay. Next up, guide for setting up and hosting Node io.js applications. That looks like FAQ or tutorials or documentation. Keep, kill, or move.
Do we really need this? I think there are lots of tutorials out there for various hosting platforms.
Let's just keep it.
It's a little bit more relevant to us because some Node.js tutorials don't really cover io.js.
Yeah, and so.
Well, I think all this potential like guide, what would we want to include in the guide section, what do we not, is just like scope of the new team to determine when coming out with the new layout. So I think we can just keep it on the table.
Next up, add new collaborators. I'm going to close this out because it's just that's just organizational stuff. All right, magic hook to ping internationalization groups for additions and changes.
Worth keeping, if only so that when we get into the new project, we just think about the process. I don't know if this is discussing or proposing the right process, but it had a few ideas in it, and it just reminds us that a process should exist, I think, how the groups work together.
All right. Next up, new homepage design. I think we decided to close those out, right?
Close it.
Next up, we got internationalization tracking spreadsheet. I think that's similar to the one we just went over.
Yeah, they're basically the same, just like notifying groups somehow, whatever our process will be, so that like if we update the English page or someone writes a new English page or someone writes another language page, that like stuff gets around and people are notified.
This is also helpful. It links to a document somebody else wrote that's like just a list of the IA18 groups and where they were as of like a month or two ago. So it might help us in planning the new site.
So maybe keep this issue open and close.
Okay. Next up, we've got, oh man, we've got a lot for UI design. We've got io.js homepage UI mockup. I'm going to close this out. We've got company adoption badges. I think that is relevant on the new one.
That already
Yeah, I think
exists on nodejs.org. We just didn't have it for us.
Okay. Cool. Browser sync for development server.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have it in the future.
Next up, we've got RSS for weekly publication updates.
It depends. Do we stick with a Medium blog for the new website?
That's
I think that's something to discuss next week. I'm not really sure.
Okay. I will tag that for next week, and we'll move on. New nodejs.org. That will be discussed next week. Page about options on how to debug io.js. I think that's another tutorial section.
Yep.
Yep, generally useful.
Okay. Next up, we're almost there, guys. Download directory template. That is one I have not seen yet. Here we go. Okay, yeah, so download directory template. Is that
So I
something
think I would almost like skip this one, and like if someone has time to like look at it. It's kind of a thing that kind of integrates with build and how our binaries are served up so that people can download them. And
Okay. Next up, we've got to document the new ES6 additions. That's docs, isn't it?
no, that's just for our ES6 page because it never got updated to io.js 2.0. or soon to be released 3.0.
So that move over to the new.
Well, maybe
That's
we
still
should
relevant
update.
for us.
Yeah, we might want to update that in parallel.
Okay.
We almost need a tag for like stuff that is like relevant still for more immediate action.
Okay. Let's see here. Next up, we got link roadmap to website.
I will take care of this, and I just put it in the header right beside the FAQ.
Okay. Then
Just make sure that when you do that, like it doesn't like terribly fail for the styling when someone tries to look at it from like a mobile phone.
Yeah, sure.
okay.
And check the i18n versions, make sure it's not like wrapping and stuff.
At this point, we're at enough of the more modern issues that I think we can continue to work on them just on GitHub, because there may be more here that haven't been closed out that may need to be, but they may not necessarily need to be discussed here over the call.
We had one old one that got skipped, 284. It's just i18n build switch to the JSON file for version stuff. I think I like mostly did this, so I'm just gonna close it.
Okay. Besides that, take a look at anything that was opened in the last, I would say, week. As you go ahead and add notes, close it out if you feel it should be. But I think with that gives us I think that clears out enough to be able to, have some good issues to start off in the next repo. Do any of you guys have any questions, comments, anything that we need to discuss before the merge meeting next week?
One thing that might be worth discussing next week is because potentially we're going to be dealing with like at least 3 website repos, maybe even 4 if conceivably the foundation versus Node.js itself have 2 separate websites or something. Is like maybe having a repo for coordination and meeting type purposes and versus ones that are like issues specific to us specific website, because that's going to might get confusing as time goes on if we're managing 4 or 5 repos.
That's fair.
That's people tracked on a master repo as long as everyone agrees what the like master repo is.
Yeah. Either way, that's probably something that should be discussed next week.
For.
Yeah, I just thought I'd plant the seed for that idea, not to discuss now.
Yeah. No, for sure. Sorry, I dove right into that.
Sean, go ahead and open up an issue for that in the website group, and we'll address it next week. Anyone else have any questions, comments, jokes they want to tell?
I mean, I'm a little bit behind on the mechanics of the merged core, but do we have any mechanism for backtracking what gets in and what's the documentation for those things? Because in my experience with Node docs in general, for what we end up just sort of building and displaying, the doc commits and the work commits are not always one-to-one parity. So is there someone auditing that on the core team, or is that something that we should put on our radar?
Documentation is something that we do need to discuss. It's something that no one really has stepped up to the plate for. It's kind of been on our plate, but then not, and then sort of, and then not, and then sort of again. And so that's one reason why I wanted to discuss a possible docs working group next week. And
I think that's a really
Yeah. So I think in core we like encourage people to have docs with their stuff, especially if they're like adding something. I think usually we want them to have documentation with it. That's what you're asking.
No, I guess what I'm asking is like the mechanics of the merge, right? So something landed in IO and not in Node, and they decide to take that commit and they take the work. but they miss the corresponding documentation, which happens to be in a separate commit.
So
that does make
I'm
sense.
not really sure if this is something for the website, but like we have like a list that Chris Dickinson made of all the commits that we are missing, like empirically. So we'll be going over that in the Node.js/Node repo.
Right, that answers my question. That's the audit that I was talking about. So someone is doing the audit, you guys are doing it in the core team stuff. So that totally answers my question.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, anything that needs to be discussed here?
I'm good. Happy to be back.
Cool.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day. To anyone watching, feel free to check out the repo at Node.js/website. That will be changing in the future, but yeah, use Node, guys. Have a good one, and we'll talk later.
Take care, all.
Good day, everyone.
Bye.